engagement. The recording is there. So thank you everyone for attending our first annual engagement session with the 4-County Labor Market Planning Board. We wanted to find a way to communicate with our stakeholders on what our findings are, what our future projects are, and how you can get involved in our projects. So this is going to be a little bit of an overview today. We will be going over some of the highlights of our reports from last year, and like I said, future projects. We would encourage you to read the full reports though on our website, and with those reports there is a feedback option. There is a button below the report, so we won't be going over the full reports today, but I would encourage you to engage with us and read those full reports. So we'll also be talking a little bit how you can get involved in our projects for this year. And we will be early next week sending out invitations to certain groups for our advisory groups. So before we get started, I do see a lot of faces that I have been meeting with. So most of you do know who I am, but for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dana Susi, and I am the recent new executive director as of April 1st this year. I have been with the organization in different capacities in the past since about November 2019. I'd also like to introduce to you a new member of our team. Jan is our labor market researcher and analyst. Jan will be walking us through our findings and some of the details of our projects upcoming this year. And she's become a very valuable resource for me. So thank you, Jan. And I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land by the Indigenous peoples of the 4-County region. The people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Ottawa, Potawatomi Nation, the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and the Neutral Peoples. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared the land and waters in Grey County, and we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation traditional keeper of the land in Grey Bruce. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to strive for justice with all our relations. As we live, work, and worship on the traditional territory in Bruce Grey here on Perth, we pledge to work with Indigenous communities towards a new relationship of respect and peace. I'd like to take a moment just to reflect on that message before we begin. Okay, so these are the reports and deliverables that were part of our local board deliverables in 2022-23. Jan will be walking us through some of the findings with the Re-engaging Retreated Worker Survey, why we did it, what the results are. She'll be talking about the impacts of low unemployment, as she'll be talking about our employment rate and what that means to us. She'll be talking a little bit about what we heard from our employers in the Employer One survey this year, as well as an overall view of our local labor market plan and the details in that. And I will be covering a little bit about our connected jobs and the local resource that was built as part of that project. So, and no further ado, I am actually going to hand it over to Jan.
Okay, thank you, Dana. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with to share some of the highlights of our Re-engaging Retreated Workers survey. Our project idea first came when we observed a large retreat of approximately 6,000 workers when we collected data in 2021 to 2022. So while our employers in the region continue to face the challenge in retaining and attracting our workers, we found that it is necessary to understand why such a large number of workers left and what were the barriers that stopped these workers from returning. And also to take a step forward, is there anything we can do to bring them back? In order to engage with these retreated workers, we set out the target to survey 100 respondents, and we ended up receiving 112 responses in total. What we found in our survey response is that approximately 50% of our respondents told us that they left because of the barriers from age, health, disability, or the lack of childcare. And since these constraints are rather hardcore, it will be extremely hard for them to return to work under the existing work arrangement. However, our study also sees that there are potential when we try to make flexible schedules that may help to support some of the retreated workers to reconsider whether they may return to work. For example, for those who left because of health concern or family engagements, they are unable to work full time, but it may be potential for them to consider working part time or working remotely. So now, after we take a look at the retreated workers' responses, let's also take a look at the other aspects of issues that concerning our region, the low unemployment. And that is where we have the second project on the understanding of low unemployment. And since you may also be aware, our region has been consistently be the region that has the lowest unemployment rate in Ontario for now almost a decade. While unemployment rate is an important labor market or economic development indicator, understanding how it works, how it interacts with other indicators, it is always a complicated analysis. And that is why we conducted a study on the impacts of low unemployment last year. And there are many factors we found contribute to our low unemployment rate, and we have explained those in details in our full report. But we also want to take the time to highlight here that neither a higher nor a lower unemployment rate should be simplified as a good thing. In fact, our unemployment rate must be studied along with our high job vacancy and the high overall participation rate in our region. To put it simple, while our labor demand is high, the low unemployment rate and our high overall participation rate implies that in our region, we have very limited additional or potential labor that we may draw on to meet the growing demand. And at the same time, we also see that we are now facing an aging population and that our elder age cohort, they actually have a way lower participation rate than Ontario as a whole. In other words, we're now having a growing population of who are not participating in the workforce. And this aging issue further decreases the availability of workers who may fill in our job vacancies. That is why, while we are having historically high job vacancy numbers, the size of the available and qualified workers is way smaller than what we need. And this has caused our employers to have greater difficulty to fill in all the job vacancies across sectors. However, we also note that there are some sectors that have been hit even harder, and there remains with a large number of what we call hard to fill job vacancies. Just to give you a brief understanding, according to the data from Statistics Canada, the major four occupations that has the greatest number of vacancies in our region are found in sales and services, such as retail salesperson and food counter attendants, and also trades and transport and equipment operator related occupations. Just to name a few, truck drivers, and carpenters. The vacancies in our region are also concentrated in manufacturing and utilities-related occupations, such as machine operators and assemblers. And fourth but not least, health-related occupations also have a number of hard-to-fill vacancies. As you guys may know, like registered nurse and medical assistants are in-demand jobs. Um, Other than our data-related study on low unemployment, we also think that it is necessary to take a look at what concerns our employers, and that brings us to our 2023 Employer One survey. In fact, the responses from our employers also confirmed the intensified labor shortage we observed, and there are growing recruitment difficulties associated with our lower unemployment rate. In 2023 survey, we found that 57% of the employers rated the availability of qualified workers in their sector as poor. And this level of dissatisfaction is actually a record high ever since we started doing this survey a decade ago. And on the other hand, our aging population also adds challenges for our employers to retain workers. In terms of workforce turnover rate, we found that 23% of our loss of labor force in 2022 was caused by the retirement of employees. And as we mentioned previously, the additional labor supply that we may rely on within our region is very limited. And our employers are also aware of the situation, and they have been working to attract new workers from outside the region. However, the survey response we got tell us that the unaffordable housing price in our region and the lack of housing in general, as well as the lack of transportation network connecting to our region, have caused great difficulty for the employers to attract new ones to work in our region. So now that let's move on to take a more thorough look of what's happening in our local labor market. That is where we found our 2023 local labor market plan. In the year of 2022 to 2023, we have experienced several historic highs and some record lows. On one hand, we have historic highs in the total employment size and also our job vacancies. On the other hand, we have experienced a historic low in terms of our unemployment. In other words, we have hit a peak in our labor demand, but at the same time, we have reached the lowest point in our labor supply. And this situation has brought about what we call intensified labor shortage in our region across all the sectors. And this has posed greater challenge for our employers to hire and retain workers. So these are all the highlights of the projects we conducted last year. And thank you for walking through all the projects with us.
Thank you, Jan. So as I stated, that is a bit of a highlight of some of the projects. The full reports are on the website. And don't hesitate. If you read the full report and you have other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us and discuss. I have no problem scheduling a meeting to talk further details. So in saying that, these are some of the trends that kind of influenced our decisions on what projects to move forward. So we have an aging population. We have outmoving youth that we have identified that we would like to keep the youth in our area. We have identified that we have a lack of workers availability, and that employers have identified that the workers that we do have available have poor skills. They're not qualified, they need training in whether that's soft skills or it is industry specific. So some of our themes moving forward is looking at succession planning, flexible schedules. We wanted to promote what the local career opportunities are here and work on projects that will enhance the attraction and retention of our workforce, as well as increasing our local participation. So that's a little bit about what we were doing, and thank you for bearing with me as my mouse doesn't always work right in a timely fashion. So one of our other projects that we worked on in 2022-23 was our resource aid for the Connected Jobs platform. Our target audience for this project was EO service providers and job seekers. We've had the Connect Jobs platform for a few years now, but there has been additional tools added to it. We have a new essential skills button because of this project that helps job seekers who create a profile can see an essential skills button. I have to clarify that some of the functions are based on job seekers. Oh, sorry, just seeing the comments, got distracted. We'll talk about those after though. So this resource aid is an activity book, basically for job seekers or EO service providers to use. I will caution that right now we're in a transition. We have moved the platform over with a partnership with the system service master. So it is sitting on a different platform or website right now, and we're working through some of the bugs on that. So if you do see anything, please do reach out to us and let us know. And there will be more reports coming from us. For example, we did a joint partnership with the Western boards to create a marketing campaign back in January to promote job seekers and employers to create their profiles on the platform. As you can see from the slideshow, there are a lot of tools available. Some of our reports will be changing format and use as we work through this with the lead organization, Windsor Essex. So that's a little bit about that. You will see that in the featured section of our reports, but you will also see it in the resource aid area of our website. So that's a little bit about that. Moving along to this year's project. So Jen will be providing some details about our upcoming projects for this year. There will also be an opportunity, like I said, we are going to be reaching out to certain groups to be part of our advisory group as we develop and form the methodologies that we use for these projects. One of them is our 2023 employee survey that was done last in 2018. We will be doing a very comprehensive report on understanding our workforce and attraction and retention by, Jan will tell you more, but we will be looking at those moving in and moving out. We are doing a skilled trades handbook project. I think anyone I've talked to so far has been super excited about that. We had our first partner meeting this morning with TTG and the Avon District Maitland School Board, and we're very excited to bring that handbook out to all of you. That will help us promote our skilled trades and trade opportunities in the local area. And as usual, our annual local labor market plan outlines basically the whole scope of our current workforce situation. So without further ado, again, I am going to hand it back to you, Jan, for you to talk a little bit about a couple of the projects.
Okay, thank you, Dana. So let's begin with our 2023 employee survey. As we all know now that we are having a critical labor shortage, and one of the major challenge is to attract and retain our workforce. So in order to retain our existing workers, it is the moment that we consider we want to hear from our employees to get a better understanding of what they need. And for those who may have switched jobs in the past year, why were the reason they left their previous job, and what are the factors that they consider important when they select or apply for a job, and how we can increase our employees' job satisfaction such that we can keep them in their current work. And these are the questions that we want to sort out through our survey. As Dana mentioned, our next step, we will be reaching out to you very soon to form an advisory committee, and we value your feedback throughout our project design and execution, and we trust that that will make our survey a better one. And for now, based on our preliminary statistics, with reference to our region's labor force size, we now target at surveying 800 workers working across the 4 counties. And you will expect to see our final report presenting to you the updated picture of how our employees feel now compared with what we saw in 2018. So now let's move on to our second project, which is more on worker understanding the moving pattern of workforce and also the factors that attract and retain our workers. In fact, over the past few years, our region has been attracting new people to live in here. Just to give you a brief background, back in 2011 to 2015, about 25% of people living in the region, they were not living here 5 years ago. But now, when we take a look at the latest numbers, we found that around 40% of people living here, they were not in our region 5 years ago. So that brings up the goal of our projects is to help our community and also help our employers to understand now that we are having more newcomers moving in, but are we attracting the right people? Are those moving to our region working in our workforce? And what are the sectors they are working in? Are they filling in our most in-demand jobs? So in this project, we target at utilizing those customized data from the latest 2021 census to understand better on the pattern of movers who move in or move out of our region, as well as move across our region in the past 5 years. And we aim at figuring out who are these movers by their age, by their gender, by their education level. And we will also try to figure out, is there any changes in the pattern and the characteristics of these movers? And how did these changes affect different sectors in our region? And similar to the employee survey, we will form an advisory committee to give us some feedback and comments on our methodology and design. And we will present our report to you guys later. And other than our 2 key projects, we would also like to take our time here to share with you some of our findings on the future challenge facing our region. As you can see from the slides here, the 3 sectors we highlight here, they all have over half of their employees who are now aged 45 to 64. In other words, these 3 sectors have half of their employees retiring in the coming 5 to 10 years. And we consider that it is a time to think about succession planning. And is there any way that we may minimize the impact of loss of workforce because of the retirement of our employees. And we believe that these findings will lead to the potential way for our future research. And we're looking forward to hearing from you on our work and planning.
Thank you, Jan. So that leads us to the end of our presentation of information today. And I'd like to open that up. And thank you, April, for that comment, because yeah, I got excited and distracted, because that's exactly what our goal is moving forward, is to showcase what great opportunities we have in the local area. And so we wanted to hear from you. We wanted to tell you about what we're doing in the future. We wanted to talk a little bit about the reports that we did do that led us to this year's projects. So because we didn't do live event releases of last year's projects, this was our way of providing you some highlights. So I'd like to open it up to the floor. Anybody who has a question, just take your mic off and shoot, or put your hand up, and we will address your questions or comments, feedback. Anybody that, is this what you're seeing? Does it match what you're seeing out there in your industries and your sectors? Any comments?
Dana,
Yeah.
I was just going to comment on the skilled trades resources that you're going to develop.
Yep.
Will you be incorporating resources that have already been developed in the region and helping to promote those efforts, or are we totally recreating that?
Example, which
I'm just speaking about Hanover and our launch pad, and we have our attention and retention campaign, which is called HIP, Hanover's Innovative People Program, and we have an apprentice stream. So we've been putting a lot of resources into like creating a toolkit, and we have an event coming up on July the 13th. We're bringing tools in the trades to Launchpad, and we're bringing some Support Ontario youth to talk to our employers about the apprenticeship journey. And you know, so I'm just thinking about all the resources that we put into it as a community, and I'm just hoping that could be leveraged and built upon versus kind of like duplicating, you know.
Yeah, I'd actually like to have a separate meeting with you, April, about that. We can talk about that, because our meeting this morning, we did talk about making sure that we have a local component in there. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about updating the trades information, because it has changed a lot since it came out last. And the NOT codes, we have 2 different NOT codes now. And we have other resources such as connected jobs for the career searching and wage information. There was just a real need to update it, but absolutely open to ideas, because we're just at the planning stage at this point. We didn't bring a lot of partners into it just because we knew we were going to be doing this engagement session and reaching out to partners. If there's any resources that you would like us to consider in the handbook, please do reach out to us directly.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to reinforce that we have Launchpad, we have the infrastructure that to be able to provide training, and we would love to get more regional participation with the center.
Yeah.
So I'll just do with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it must have been a fly on the wall in our meeting this morning, because we talked about putting those local resources as an option in our handbook. So
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Shirley, you have your hand up, and then I'm just trying to kind of look at the chat as well.
Hi, thanks, Dana. Good to see you. Just 2 thoughts, if I may. First of all, you know, as municipalities, we are all fully aware of the critical issue of affordable housing, and I just think it's important that you at Fort County know that we are all working on solutions with that, because I see that's the #1 concern in relation to attracting workers. So I think there's just a lot of good work being done in that regard. Secondly, from what I'm hearing here in Meaford, a lot of the issue around the challenge of attracting workforce to retail and hospitality, of course, are the wages. And I'm wondering if Fort County is doing any advocacy to the province to encourage a living wage for, for workers that may help in that regard. And my other thought for you, Dana, is you might consider reaching out to the good folks at TC Energy, because they're going to be doing a huge campaign. Should they get approval for their project, they're going to need somewhere between 800 and 1,000 workers to build that facility here in Meaford. And so they have created their own tactics, so to speak, in terms of attracting workforce. And I thought there might be some learning for you in speaking with them and their experience and draw on their expertise. So anyway, great information today, Dana, and thanks for sharing everything you did.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for that tip. And I can speak about the living wage issue. So we do sit on other committees, and with the vital signs and other committees that we sit on, we have been talking about a campaign for living wages. We're being very careful because not all employers can do that. So it's a very touchy subject, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, so I'm going to read Craig's comment before I move along, and then we'll go Pierre, Joni. So Craig says, I wonder if we can assist the Westcast Wingham employees finding new jobs, careers. Yes, worth a bit of a chat. That I would refer over to the SSM or the EO service providers as well. I think they would play a big role in that, Craig. But absolutely, please do message me. You have my email. Reach out to me. We can schedule a meeting and have a little chat. So, Pierre.
Hey, Dana. And no, just following up on what April was mentioning there about the trades handbook, just a lot of the research. I believe there's information on the Quill website, the past secretariat work that was done. I'd be interested to be involved with that conversation if time permits. And then just also thinking about what Shirley mentioned about the research and effort that's been done around the DGR in South Bruce from a workforce need in that regard. I just know that there's been a lot of research that's been released. Again, probably more of an opportunity to capitalize on the money that's already been spent on that research and all those reports that could be incorporated into future needs in our area. Yeah, you've kind of tapped into something else that I was going to talk about after this report section part, but we're also involved with the BG Disc group, and that has been reformed and relaunched. That's partnership with the Bruce County, Grey County Public Health Unit. It's an open data platform, and we are looking at ways of sharing those resources and research in that platform as well. So I think that warrants definitely a closer look, Pierre. So we'll go Joni, and then Joni.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And as such a lean team, Dana, congrats on all the work that you do and that you have planned. It's never an easy task. And you and I chatted a little bit about this via email. I wonder if there is a way not to create additional work, because I imagine that the work plan is reasonably full for the rest of the year. But in almost all of the literature, not just for counties, but everywhere else is, we talk so often about how we have the lowest unemployment rate in the province. And I would argue that the last 2 months, we have had almost the highest unemployment rate in the province statistically. I don't believe that. I think that's absolutely impossible. And looking around the Zoom room, if you will, at my partners in other communities, I would imagine that the available jobs, the available job postings, and the number of employers telling us they have workforce shortages would also argue that a 6% unemployment rate is got to be an outlier. So understanding that Statistics Canada does all of that work and all of that heavy lifting, do you see any sort of pathways, or I don't want to create new projects where we as the individual communities can be feeding your team information so that the statistical analysis or the analysis behind that data is actually a little bit more relevant. And I guess my point is this. So if for example, there's a plant closure in Stratford, that's going to impact the numbers for the region. Bruce County's not going to know that. And Bruce County's going to assume like these numbers don't make any sense. And on the flip side, Stratford is going to say, is something happening in Huron County that we're just not aware of because 6% doesn't make any sense? So could we, I mean, as a group, could we think strategically about how we, kind of how we're managing this number, because our employers use it to our disadvantage often as well. And I do get concerned that it creates some real barriers to existing business retention and new business attraction. So again, we won't come up with a solution today, but if there are others around your stakeholder groups that'd be interested in being a part of this discussion, I think there's some merit, because numbers are just numbers if they don't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a real sensitive topic, Joni, because there's a lot of debates out there on how the unemployment rate alone, and that's what Jan was alluding to, is that we can't look at the unemployment rate alone. It has to be combined with other indicators to really show the picture. And you're right, I don't even know all the closures that are out there. So I would be happy to know when you know something from your region so that I can include that in our news, in what we share, so that everybody knows. And we do oversee all 4 counties. So I'm definitely interested in a further conversation about this. And I would include Jan in that as well, just because she's excellent at pulling all the numbers together as to what we need. And I agree. I don't think the unemployment rate really showcases what's actually happening in our area. That's why we dive into these reports so deep and complicated. So definitely open for a conversation about that. And so I'm going to go in order. There's a couple other comments. So I see Kieran, you've put a comment. Yep, exactly. I don't want to reinvent any wheels. You've all been doing amazing work, and I want to pull everything together for the stakeholders. So I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you, Kieran, on the side about this and how we can wrap that into our area about eligible employers. Heather, thank you very much. That's something else. Every bit of needs assessment and tools. I know GB Lip is doing something with WowC, and we want to pull all the tools together. So there's lots of future projects, and we are a team of 2. So bear with us as we try to pull things together. But when the partners come together and we work together, we can accomplish a lot. So I am looking forward to that. So asset map, excellent, Quill. Thank you for sharing that, Heather. These are all great things that we want to find a way that we can become that platform where we can share so that everyone in the region, you're all doing really good work in your own areas, but you don't always know what's going on in all 4 regions. So that's where we come in to help. Did I answer everybody's questions now? I think so. I apologize if I missed anybody. Okay, hearing none. And like I said, we are more than happy to have you give us a call directly if we need to set up individual meetings to discuss any suggestions or feedback you have as we move forward. And we will be early to mid next week sending out invitations to specific groups to be on our advisory committee based on your organizational needs. But if anybody wants to put their name forward, this is how you get a hold of us. So thank you for engaging with us. I will, before I close the meeting, give another opportunity for feedback, but I also wanted to tell you about some of our other projects that we work on that are outside these deliverables. So as you said, Joni, small team, but we're mighty. We actually work with other organizations and partnerships locally. A couple of those examples are the Skills Opportunity Showcase trailer, which we work with OYAP, Blue Water School District, on. As well as the BG disc, we are part of the committee, and we are really working on rolling out that platform into the public as we kind of massage that project. We are also working on that partnership with the Connected Jobs move over. And as well, we are working with Edge Factor on our community hub. And Pierre, I probably will be tapping you on the shoulder for that one to say, let's have another conversation about that, because I have some more information. As well, we also work with the Western workforce boards, and there are 9 of us, so we have some joint projects on the go, and we are connected to the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus in that same conversation. We meet monthly. We did a campaign together for the Connected Jobs platform. We have some future projects coming out. I don't have any details of those yet because they are just initial conversations. And I think that's about it, other than the last statement that I would like to say to all of you is thank you for being active partners, stakeholders. We really do rely on the resources that you're building and the work that you're doing out there, and we want to share it. So never hesitate to contact me directly. I'll set something up. But testimonials of your use of our reports would be great. If you have anything that you want to share, we are working on a project with the other boards as well to identify the value of local boards and what we provide you. So example, you leverage a lot of different projects and funding with the reports that are provided, but we don't always hear about that. So it's hard for us to measure that. If you can reach out to us, that would be great. I may be reaching out to you. If you've requested special data, because we do that occasionally too, where you need specific data to your project, we can provide that. So we're looking forward to working with you as we are going to navigate this very unprecedented labor shortage. And any ideas you may have, you can contact us at admin@planningboard.ca or our head office number. Any further questions? No, crickets. That's a good thing. So thank you everyone for attending today, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Jen.